You need to be able to use personal power, not position power. Position power is, I did the acquisition, I'm the executive vice president, you're going to do it my way, because if you don't, I'm going to do this to you.
Welcome to Top Rated Gym Podcast. Today we are joined by the true veteran in the fitness industry, Scott Corless, with over 40 years of experience. From his humble beginning, literally at the janitor, of the leading at the charge of the scaling multi-location operations. Scott insights are invaluable. Whether you're tracking to find hidden problems that can derail gym growth or discovering the key performance indicators that makes or breaks your business, Scott brings a wealth of knowledge that will help you navigate the challenges of scaling your fitness brands. Let's dive into his journey and the powerful lessons he learned along the way. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What do we want to know, Scott, is, you see, you have unique perspective, understanding really decades of the industry. You've scaled businesses from ground up, including Corless Gym, from 83 to 149 locations in just 21 months. I think we're talking here about record numbers. Can you walk us through? What's the secret of such rapid growth?
I think it's similar to the axiom that the secret to overnight success is about 10 years. Well, that's very similar in any industry. I think we forget that this is actually a fairly new industry. It didn't even come around as a commodity, certainly until one could argue the late 60s or 70s, right? And if you think of the other industries, from transportation to media, they're well in excess of 100, 150 years old. And we've got, 60, maybe 50 or so. So I think the challenge is that there's a limited amount of resources there for somebody who wants to get in the industry to really pick up firsthand knowledge, or even secondhand knowledge. There are not as many tried and true methods that are known, I think, to people coming in, which is what we'll certainly be endeavoring to provide any new franchises with in moving forward in my company. Is that when you come in, it isn't the same as the metrics for every other industry. You may have been in two different industries where you're thinking, okay, I got my rent per square foot and CAM, and I can afford this, and that's great. I need my loan amount to be a certain bit. I can service this much debt. I can either leverage my equipment purchases or lease it. They come in with all of that accounting knowledge, which is great. But the knowledge of the proper KPIs and things to measure within and getting that business up and running are completely different in many cases. So if you may know all about bringing products to market, supply chains, but there are a whole different set of first off, personnel, practices, right? And then performance indicators. They're different. They're different in every business, certainly, but they're certainly different in ours to the point where I think our industry lends itself to folks that think it would be a really cool business to be in, but don't realize what a job it actually is.
Oh, so you're bringing some different perspective here now. At least that's what I'm getting. I'm all about templating, like copy the success, bring what works. And then you are saying now here, like Andre, not everything works the same for every business. Even within the businesses, I just had a conversation with one executive an hour ago, said all locations have tracked things very differently than new locations. 10-year locations versus 1-year locations. New leads coming in 10-year locations, there's not many. They saturated market. They have a win-backs coming back, same leads being retargeted, coming back versus new one coming in new locations. Different messaging, different KPIs, different performances. So, you're killing me here, buddy.
I think that we might not have as much disagreement as you suspect. I'm speaking of, you're certainly going to have different expectations, but the things that you need to measure are pretty similar to our industry and some others, but you definitely have maybe some different expectations, but it's a pretty good set, at least in my opinion, of maybe 20 or so key performance indicators that you need to track on the production, service, attrition, those kind of things. Some of those ratios.
Yeah.
And I don't track that differently if I was at 5,000 square feet or 40,000 square feet. I think it's the same basic needs, though the expectations might be different. You're right. 10-year-old facility in a town that doesn't have a lot of moving in and out. You got most of your members until the ones that were 8 turn 18, right?
Yeah. Like natural aging is your lead generation system, not competition or territory.
Yeah, you can't reverse that, right? So, well, and then of course in that case, you're going to want to try and maximize not only the value for your customers, but the monetary compensation you get for that value. So if you can add ancillary sources of income, whether it's vending or services, that's you're going to have to do that. If you've got the same amount of members every year for 5 years, there's probably not a lot of gurus going to come around and just say, let me show you how to double your member production. You're probably better served trying to maximize the revenue per member or per visit.
So, Scott, walk me through. Let's say you're coming into the franchise operations. You're a fresh set of eyes. You're coming with your expectations, like let me see the basics, let me get your pulse, let me see your heart, let me see how you breathe, let me take some blood work, in metaphorical speaking, the basics, right? But your mastery is really understanding where the problems are, bottlenecks. So what's your approach of looking into hidden opportunities? Like how do you step away from that template, going deeper into something that you think might be necessary? Is that relevant to experience or is it process?
No, I think experience tells you which plate is likely to begin to wobble next, right? But the process is what saves the plate. So to give you an example, if I'm going to go into if we're talking about a market or a location, so let's say if I went into years and years back the St. Louis market for a company. Of course, the ultimate bottleneck is when you don't have sufficient cash flows from your current operation to fund the operations of your hoped for expansion, right? So there's the worst bottleneck. That's the fatal bottleneck. Not enough cash. You can't even service the debt on your new location because you thought you were doing better than you really were on your old location. So 1 to 2 is certainly a lot harder, right, than some of the just adding one on later on. So that's the first bottleneck. Now, why does that happen? Well, I would probably take a look at it from 3 or 4 aspects. Number one, how many members do you have and how many people are within 10, 20 minute drive times, 5, 10, 20 minute drive times? How many? If you've got 3,000 members, only 10,000 people live in that area, you're maximizing and you're not making money, then that might be all she wrote. Either that or you're going to have to triple your price, right? So there are different reasons why somebody might struggle. Market-wise, look at competition, look at pricing, and look at the demographics. Then within the business, for us, and we would always look at what is the price point? What is the reputation? What are the Google rankings? Like, how does the community feel about it? Because that's going to let you know what your potential market share is. If you have you got a 1.5 in your Google, I know you're buying somebody out, but you got a long way to go to drag that thing through the sand, right? So that's important as well. What is the staff? Let me make sure I put this the right way so I don't look flippant. The staffing is less important to me than you might expect at first. And what I mean, it doesn't mean I don't want to embrace and protect and teach the staff. But if I understand what processes are right and whether it's the right business, then hopefully the staff will be able to be brought upon with new expectations and new indicators and that stuff. But should they not desire that type of workflow, then the next group will. Right. So if I was to decide that this is the right place to be, there's nothing wrong with this. They don't know what they don't know, perhaps, right? They just don't know how to do it. That's the reason. Whether the staff wants to go along for the ride is up to them.
So when you come in, you say, hey, this is the new standard. This is how it's supposed to be. I don't blame you guys. You didn't know. Nobody was there to show you. You didn't know what you didn't know. Here's the path where you're going. Are you on board or not?
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying, but I much prefer to show it as here's an opportunity to increase your income versus, top down. So if it was me personally, when I supervised or did some acquisitions, I would go meet with the senior people. I was usually meeting the senior people, but let's say I'm meeting general managers. Just have them take you and show you around their business and explain how they run their business, and then ask them how they're performing both in their business and whatever personal goals they have. Because everybody is going to come down to, oh my God, there's this change. Is my job secure and is my pay secure, right? That's the first two things that people are always afraid of, understandably so. So if you can take that out of the conversation right off the bat and just go through their workflow with them, sit with them, right? Not just orate from a dais in a hotel lobby, right? If you actually go sit with them and you were to say, look, Andre, how much do you want to be making? And see if because they're going to complain. Oh, I was promised a raise. If you could just show them how doing things in the manner that you've been implementing them everywhere else is going to make them more money, you're halfway there. Not a whole way there because they don't trust you yet anyway. But coming at it like, hey, you guys are so lucky we're here. You just didn't know this, but we're going to teach you. That might have flown in the 50s. It's not flying right now. You'd be better off coming in and explaining how they're going to help more people in the community and make more money while they're doing it, and kind of get that. To me, at least, that has been far more successful.
I want to comment on that one. So it's not about me telling you what to do, and you have to do it because it's the process. It's aligning mine and your goals to say, you succeed, I succeed, we both share success. If we grow, you grow, this is your future. Because I remember people are saying there's two reasons. There's number one reason why people look for a job is security of income. Like everybody has mortgage to pay. You got it. Two reasons why people leave the job. It's either number one, you stop growing, hit a ceiling, right? There's nothing more, or they disagreement with the manager and politics or culture, right? But giving them opportunity, it means me pushing harder. I'm not pushing harder for you. I'm pushing harder for me as well, for my family, my personal goals. So that keyword that you added, like, what's your business goal? What's your personal goal? Have to be aligned with what we are doing here. I love that.
I agree. You need to do two things. You need to be able to use personal power, not position power. Position power is, I did the acquisition. I'm the executive vice president. You're going to do it my way because if you don't, I'm going to do this to you. That's position power, right? And that's just all over the place anymore, right? And it's almost looked at as a badge of honor to be able to just talk down to somebody in many circles, certainly. But personal power comes from when that person actually knows that you care about whether they're successful, or maybe you helped them because they brought some matter to you that could have even been outside work within reason, and you gave advice on anything from family budgeting to God knows what, to credit card debt. If that person has been able to see that you gave them information that either A, made their life better with respect to income, or B, made their life less chaotic with respect to leadership and management, you now have a grounds to call up and say, you know what, Andre, I got nobody. Do you think you could help me out? Saturday? And you're like, absolutely. Rather than, well, I had plans and then you didn't. If, position power is only effective if I can get to you and give you the consequences within, like a few hours. Other than that, once you're managing people outside your city, you have no idea whether I came to work or not. And so they have to want to do the job and want to succeed. And they just don't for autocratic top-down style management. And I learned that, unfortunately, too bloody late in life. I should have learned it in my late 20s. But I have an ex-employee and perhaps an ex-spouse or two that might be able to verify that this sudden enlightenment didn't happen 25 years ago.
Yeah, there's so much dictatorship that can work and it doesn't work far. I like the book that talks about that in details, 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. And it really spits out exactly what you're saying. There's people with a title that I have to listen to the title because it's title. And there's real leaders that goes by earning, by being there for you, by showing you by example, leading by example, who earn the title, not given the title. Leaders that are being chosen by the people because you're great and you're going to show me, teach me, and be there for me. It's much more different. It's different culture.
Right. And a lot more collaborative, don't you think? When they
showed up in the moment of problems. Like you said, somebody's out. Hey, not my job to do this. You figure it out, badass. Versus, listen, I'm out. I already find replacement. This guy's could call me up. I'm just letting you know I'm out, but I take care of you. You're good.
Yeah.
Right.
Who do you think is going to work harder? The ones that are doing it because they're being overseen, or the ones who are just trying to impress you because you did something for them, or they just believed in the culture of whatever you're creating? And you're still going to, I've made some tremendous mistakes, just got that one wrong. I mean, it's going to happen, right? But if you look at your hiring as a bit of an obligation, what I mean by that is if I hire Andre to work as a general manager at one of our locations, but maybe I didn't fully vet him, or maybe we lost a manager, so we're like, just get that guy in here. I haven't had a chance to, right? Well, in that case, and in many cases, if the employee doesn't work out, it really, the onus can't be taken off me. In other words, I either hired the wrong employee or didn't train the right one. But otherwise, why is he gone? Now, can people fool you or get better opportunities? Sure. But if in our industry, it has been my experience, certainly coming up, that the average cycle for employees is simple. Application, interview, a week where nobody calls them at all, panic phone call, can you start tomorrow? You get your shirt a week later, not at work at any time, not certainly. I'm just saying other places I've been. You get your shirt a week later, and then first time, and they give you one shirt, and then the second week is dirty, so you try and get away with a t-shirt, and you get written up, all within 2 weeks of signing your W-4. I mean, it's just been uncanny that I've seen
the reactive process of, my God, I have so many fires I'm trying to burn, and instead of shutting them down, you're creating more.
Oh, for sure, but it's not, it's not just our industry, but I've just been seeing this forever, and of course, it can happen to any of us, but we certainly endeavor to be very different at any company that I've ever had the pleasure of serving.
Wow, this is definitely a demonstration, not only in the gym industry, in many other industries. Like, okay, and then you're not trained, you go in, you're thrown in a fire, you're making so many mistakes, customers are feeling it, you're burning down experiences until you figure it out. It's like, and then you're carrying so many scars along the way. Like, what is going on?
Real scars, actually, yeah, sure.
It's like, okay, that definitely is a problem, but it's a bigger problem that keeps happening all the time, right?
It's happened since I was hired in 1982. That's what happened to me. That's how I know this so well, right? So yeah, there's no training. Yeah.
And there are one of the biggest reasons is people don't document mistakes and they don't put it in writing, learnings. It's okay to make mistakes if you learn something from it and you change after that. But if you keep on doing it and then you're asking yourself, why the heck, where are the good people? Why can't I hire somebody good? What's going on? Look back in the mirror and says, okay, what the heck I'm doing differently?
You know, I actually have a thought on that if you allow me to dig into it for a second. You talk about, you know, how you really don't think about was your coming up in life, whether it was athletics or not. For me, it was athletics, but was your easiest coach your best coach? Nah, not usually, right? Usually your toughest coach ended up being your favorite coach and your best coach because they got the most out of you, right? Well, I think that you mentioned all industries. We need to create an environment that gives our staff the confidence to make an aggressive mistake. And what I mean by that is I would much rather have, I mean, not so aggressive. I'm not talking about, you know, something egregious, but I'm talking about make a call instead of dithering about, sitting on their hands, afraid because what will happen if I get it wrong? I think that in the limited amount of success I've been able to cobble together over, 4 decades, thanks for pointing that out, it's been because I think that you have to create an environment where your staff isn't even afraid to argue back up. So I've always said you argue up the ladder, not down. If I have some decision I'd like to make and I have a couple of different district managers arguing with me and saying, no, that's wrong, that's a lousy idea, let me tell you why. If they're afraid to do that, you're going to have problems. And so, you know, you also have to teach them that, you know, you may win the argument or you may not. In exchange from you getting to vociferously defend whatever idea you have that I don't like or trash my idea, the trade-off of giving you that freedom is that whichever way we go, when it goes down to the troops, you got to act like you were on board with it too. The same as I do with my superiors. You can't go, well, I don't want to do this, but Andre's making us do it. No.
Disagree but commit.
Right. You just and you know the great thing is if you try and implement it the way I asked, one of two things will happen. It'll either work and you'll learn something, or it won't work and you'll be able to go, I told you my way was better, and now you got an out. But if you do excuse the expression, if you do a half-assed job at what I taught you, then you don't get to blame me, right? Mm-hmm. So you might as well try it and you might learn something. That was the first thing. And the second is, they got to be able to make a mistake and not be penalized. Like you said, not again and again and again. But if somebody tries something, you know, and it's not blatantly against the policy and they had the reason to make an aggressive mistake because it wasn't in policy, how are you going to penalize that? Do you know when the next, you know what you'll have? You'll have a whole cadre, if not a whole company of people sitting on their hands afraid to make any kind of decision that could be used against them later on. That is the worst kind of leadership.
Scott, I gotta go deeper on this. Sure. Because here's what you're saying and what I'm hearing. And that connects to my teaching from my mentor that I learned. There's two kinds of people. There's owners and there's operators. Most owners think they're owners, no, they're operators. They are buried in the business. They can't go on vacation without thinking, disconnecting. And if they travel even for the conference, their stress was going on backwards. There's always fires to kill. Now I learned from Dan Martell, two kind of leaderships, transactional and transformational. What you're talking about is something he called transformational leadership. Transactional is, I give you tasks, you do it my way, you report to me and I check it out, I tell you it's not good, you go back again and do it, you report, and it's back and forth. I didn't save much time, you're not making progress. It's almost like me and you are playing chess. You're playing against the opponent, but I'm telling you how to move every part.
Yeah.
If you fail, you feel miserable. If you succeed, it's not even your success because it's your boss.
I like that because it's very similar. Owners, operators, or transactional, transformative is not that. It's really not that much different than position or personal power, right? Position is you do it, I'm your boss. Transactional is maybe even better because it could be two equals, but we're only doing it for what you pay me. I don't believe in your cause.
I'll do what I pay
think
for it, not more, not less. And then
No, and I think
what I learned about
go ahead, please.
what I learned about transformational, it's like, okay, we're playing the chess. Here's the rules of the game. You got to knock off the king. Go play, learn, and then put a scorecard in place. Keep me up on the progress, so I can check not the task's execution, but progress. How well are you doing, and can I do course correction / coaching along the way? Not telling you what to do. They'll do 80% good job as you will do it yourself, but it's 100% freaking awesome because it's 100% of your time sold and encourage mistakes. They will make it. They'll learn from it.
And you got to hire the kind of people where that feedback is not, earth shaking to them. So like somebody who's been told no before, I actually do a lot better than I should considering this face and this industry, meaning that, I got in this industry at 18 years old. And was it 19? 18 or 19 years old. And yeah, I know, right? That was the Arnold Luferigno era. I was in California. In any event, I think that the trust there's such a breakdown in trust of any kind of credentialism or authoritarianism, meaning, people aren't trusting their teachers, they're not trusting their media. There's nobody trusting anybody. And certainly there's a generational divide between the people who come into our industry and some of us that are with the large groups, right? And either own or, right. And I think that you avoid that subject at your peril. And knowing what makes people tick. I'm not talking about being soft by no means. I don't think you'd be able to dig up anybody that's worked for me that would have said I had a lot of soft skills. But you do have to know when you're hiring somebody what it is, what are their goals, not just your goal. Like, I need this guy from 8 to 4. Hire Andre. He looks okay. He's okay. That guy, put him in. Come on. How much does that happen? If I know what you want to accomplish, whether it's just doing a good job over the summer before you go back, to University of Tennessee, or whether it's something you might look at having a career in. Do you think I certainly didn't have any aspirations when I walked in 1980 to apply for a job as a janitor in a gym that I would end up sitting here talking to you today 40 years later. You just don't know where it's going to come from. I happen to get bit by the industry bug. You don't know where the next person is. So hire better.
It's also showing your discipline to the cause, discipline to your own identity. Because you know that today people change 39 jobs. They change totally 3 careers. Like 3 different identities, careers, non-relevant to each other. They go from e-commerce to servicing to nursing, like boom. That's why it's so rare to find somebody who understand history, understand the presence, have a good feeling what's coming, and roll. And it's not an easy. That's why I'm so happy to talk to you. And I have some burning questions I want to ask you. Number 1, I am a gym owner. Number 2, I'm a franchisor and I need to hire people. What should we avoid, and where are the best talents coming from? We can go from hiring friends. Is it good or bad? Cousins, or job posts, or recruiters? Like, what would you do now if you're hiring critical roles?
So let's say within a market, if you've already got an operating facility, that's not a bad place if you've got a manager to recruit sometimes people that are that interested in the industry. I, however, I've never cared if somebody, like, I'll hire from outside the industry all the time, as long as they would have had an interest. So if someone said during their application they've never believed in, belonging to a gym, I'm not hiring that person for anything. First off, if you were, that's a bit ignorant to state that in an interview, but it's been done. I've heard it. So somebody without it, I don't care what part of your journey you're on, but you're not going to manage a facility and thereby have the influence over maybe up to thousands of people's health and fitness goals when for a product that you don't believe in. So that's the first thing. So I would rather hire a business person that has an avocation towards fitness than simply hiring because somebody thinks how cool it would be to work in a gym. So there's going to be at least some level of competency there. Also, it really helps if you have people who've been, and this isn't I'm not trying to winnow the field, and it's nothing that would put people for sure to be hired or not to be hired. But people who've been coached tend to do well in hierarchical environments. If you've had a coach grab you by the face mask or grab you by the chin and go, give you some orders and tell you how you've been screwing up, whether you like that approach or not, that person is going to be a lot easier to take, hey, here's where we're failing short, here's where we have to do better.
Coachability is a skill.
Yeah.
Being like a sponge, not rejecting ignorant and like, oh, you don't tell me what to do and how to do it. But also, if somebody's coached whole life, they are also trained how to be coached and accepting.
Yeah, it does. It can be a cycle, right? So if somebody's just brought up with the whip, learn it or else, that's exactly how they're gonna, right? And so you'll have forever a dwindling job pool, right? But the way you suggested earlier, and the way I believe, and a wonderful encapsulation of this, if that's the proper word. Simon Sinek is far more eloquent than I can pretend to be. But there is a TED talk called "Start with Why" or "Finding the Why."
Great fun.
I mean, I used to, when I was doing hiring. Right now, I'm a role as a VP of finance, and that's morphing a bit too. But I'm not in the field very often. But when I would be interviewing for managers, they would get whatever questionnaire I had and a link to that video. Because when he says people don't buy what you do, they buy what you believe. Well, how are you going to be in our industry, which is essentially a service industry, right? And if you don't believe in it, how can that possibly be?
So you're looking deeper. First of all, let me ask a clarifying question here. Coachable, people have coaches all over the place, right? They might have a coach in the fitness industry saying, oh, this is how you do it. Or maybe they are past athletes and learned how to be coachable from the previous life. Or maybe just coachable because they like learning. Does it has to be coaching in an exact field, or just a mindset you're looking for coaching?
Not at all. It's a mindset. I'll give you another example. What if the kid never did any sports, went and did 3 years stint in one of the services? Or 3 or 4 years. You think he wasn't coached and learned how to be coached? So there's 100 different ways. The reason I mentioned athletics is that's what helped me. I was your typical teenager whose parents can't tell him anything. I knew everything, right? Like many of us. Me the most, though. I knew everything. And I left home, and my first step out the door was 3,000 miles to go into college, right? So I was going to college in Los Angeles, and my folks were in Florida. That was my first, whoop, right off the diving board. And wow, the fact that I was able to earn an income in something that you kind of believe in. I've been out of this industry before and done some other kinds of business consulting, but I've usually always settled back into it. I mean, how else can you have a job where you could actually really believe in what you're doing? Like, how many shoes can you sell? How many pair of Nikes can you really sell? But how many people, at the end of the month have a shot at avoiding some of the chronic disease that just is decimating the lifespan of the people in this country? And you have a shot to poke a hole in some of that, and that doesn't. You're not excited about that, then, right? So that's the first thing, and the second is you've probably been coached, because if you're a business person that believes in this, then you've probably already been coached. And I don't care if it was your band coach. I absolutely don't care. Discipline is what I'm looking for. Discipline needn't be a negative word. It's necessary for growth in anything, right? So yes, I'm glad you helped me elucidate that point because I didn't want to come across like I hired these jocks with football.
No doubt. And that gives you like, okay, I need somebody who's going to adapt to our culture, our processes, our way of doing it, but with the mindset and belief that he's ready to grow, mindset and believe I want you as a business partner, not here a dummy employee who's going to just listen blindly. I want your goal to align with my goal. I want my success to be reflected your success. I don't want to envy employees. I want people who can put their heart into it, our time into it, passion into it, but also reflects on their success, their growth, their knowledge, understanding, income, everything to be totally aligned.
Yep, you nailed it there. I would say that so many owners, and this used to be an opening line to sometimes if I'd have a speech. So many owners think they're running the company. You know who's running their company while they're at Ursa, at the cocktail party? The 23-year-old manager that's deciding at this very minute at 6:30 whether to try and get those last couple of appointments in and make sure that she or he hits their number, or whether they just bag it because you're out of town. Either way, that's who's running your company. You're financing your company.
Yeah, that's the culture.
So who do you want running it? You want running
when you're not around.
So who do you want running it? You want somebody running it who feels like they enjoy where they work and they're going to treat the customer as such, or somebody that go, Andre's out, man. I'm dipped. I'm right. Because I have both managed both and been both very early on in my career. So I'm not a monk.
Correct. And that's what we understand people by being in the same position. Right? We all have things we like to do and we don't like to do. We have to do and we want to do. There's that the best leaders are people who feel the pain of people they lead. If you have not been there, you wouldn't understand them and you wouldn't know what turned you around and what will turn them around.
Sure.
And question for you. I had a client asking me this question. I'm going to ask you the same question because I want to see your take on it.
Yep. Let's see where we go with this.
So this is the director of the brand that has 11 locations. One of the locations struggles, and there's a general manager of that location that is not doing the job. He needs to replace it. But the question is how he does it. If he runs the ads while this guy's on the job, these guys will see. If he doesn't run the ads and try going around, like what's the best way to really fix up? He already gave up on trying to improve it because the guy.
If I had that, okay, talk about it. That's a complex question. So, but I will say that the good thing about, even a dumb guy learns something in 40 years. Here's how I've handled that in the past. And if it blows up in your face, you call Andre and complain to him for having such an ignorant guest in his podcast. I'm going to guess that they're probably amongst a couple different towns. If he has another gym in that or location that's in that town, within 30 minutes, let's say, then he's going to be okay. I'd run the ad. Because if it's gotten to the point where you want Scott out of there so bad, you're going to run an ad for a stranger, who cares if he sees it? If you've got another manager within 30 minutes from it who has a decent staff, then I'm sure that manager would love the opportunity to show you that they can keep their plate spinning that's how I got my first promotion. I had to go from keeping my plate spinning while I went and helped with a pre-sale that started. And it's kind of what got me, and the mistakes I made there weren't fatal. So I learned to move to the next big thing. So if it's an isolated location, then he's going to have to probably come out, or somebody it works for him, is going to have to come out and be ready to take over and do those interviews from a hotel 6 blocks away. Now there are variations. If he's in Atlanta, easy to hide, right? But if they're in Beebe, Arkansas, where I used to have a client years ago, you're not hiding there, right? So I need to know more, but that's what I would do. And what's really the harm? I mean, if it's gotten so bad that you're gonna post on Indeed, he's gonna find out anyway. Or even then, he or she even already knows that they're about to get whacked, as we used to put it. How could you be so so I don't know. So unaware of your own surroundings that you wouldn't already have an idea. So
That's
me,
right.
put the ad out, see what happens.
That's right. And it's one of my idea was first bring it full transparent. Says okay, that's absolute what's happening. Giving people more notice is better for them than just wiping them in a week. Like this is I want to help you move on. This is not working for you. This is not working for me. Right? I'm looking for transition, and I want to give you as well time and myself a time. Posting the ad, and it's going to happen this way. Right. Sometimes if they're really bad people, they could mess it up.
I've had incredible fun with, yes, people have done some crazy things in my,
Yeah,
but
but if
you're
you're
right.
a location business, you can leverage your existing resources and teams that you have around.
So that is the best way to do it. If you can say, look, let's just talk our way out of the situation, right, without fighting our way out of it, right? So I don't think you're happy here. That would be great. That would only happen is if you started with that trust, right? That excuse me, personal power, that transformational leadership versus transactional or position power. And I wonder if you'd have started that way, whether you'd be having the problem in the first place. But that's a bit reductive. So let's just say you do have these conversations. Be ready for them to walk out anyway. And also, I used to, if somebody gave me a couple weeks notice, I would usually, if I was well suited, I would usually just have them leave that. I'm talking about management. Have them leave that day, pay them for the 2 weeks, which you don't have to do. But that way they're not in the facility telling people why they're leaving, which can never, the members are going to assume it's something negative, right? And it might be hard for that employee not to cast a pall on the whole work environment, when in reality even if it's for a good reason, if they say, oh, I got the greatest opportunity and it pays this, and then what happens? Oh, so they don't pay well here? Just once you've decided, or they've decided to leave, I'd rather pay and some employees. Yeah, of course.
I like that.
When I left Gold's Gym in 2008, I gave a month's notice and they kept me up to the 30th day. So, but I wasn't going to be negative. And trust me, if my boss had a whiff of me even being, because I did have a great opportunity, if they had thought I would have gotten a little bit chippy about the company, A, I would have been marched out of there that day, and B, I wouldn't have been hired back 3 years later in a different role. So
That's right. My role is never, that's what my parents taught me. When you break with somebody in a role of any relationships, never close the door with your butt. That's how they say it. It's like you never know when the door will need to be open again. Like never leave it on a bad terms.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is I wonder how many times. So I'm pretty sure I never left anywhere on bad terms, but I wouldn't be able to be the judge of that, would I?
Yeah.
That's the people, right? And
Yeah.
so now we're typically in positions that people are leaving us on either good or bad terms, right? It's a different skill set to not react when somebody rejects. I had to learn that as a manager. Somebody just quit. And I couldn't believe they would quit such a great company. Because in my own egocentric way of looking at it, it was a company I was building, and it was a rejection of what I was trying to accomplish. It's stupid, but it's not. I was my general manager at 21. I shouldn't have been running a lemonade stand at 21. But somehow I found myself a general manager. So, there'll be no bragging here.
There you go. Scott, this is incredible. I love where we're going with this. We could probably have another hour of conversation, but time is ticking, and I wanna ask you two quick questions, like fast response. If somebody is getting into role of fitness and in a role of leadership, what are the one or two resources you would recommend them? It can be either books or events or networkings or podcasts or something that really helped you learn.
What helped me learn Okay, how about early and later in career? So learn the metrics of the industry, of business, not just this industry. You have to have if you want to get in on a management and leadership, you're going to have to understand what a profit and loss statement is and what things contribute towards, making it better or unfortunately making it worse. So some essential business training in anything from QuickBooks and Excel. I know this sounds boring, but just want to talk about lifting weights. It's imperative. I would also, so if we're talking about like a 21, 22-year-old want to get started on their career, I'll tell you what, I hope you took a class in college on public speaking or business writing, because it did more for me than any of I took accounting and all my, management accounting, cost account, all the, all intermediate, all this stuff, right? And some finance stuff and some marketing stuff. Guess what? Not all of them together haven't had the impact on my career that 2 public speaking classes and 2 business writing classes had. To be able to communicate in what tends to be just a chasm of gym voices, bro. If you can communicate in a business manner, you're going to need that later on for securing financing and things like that. So that would be another hugely important thing. And then lastly,
I love it.
yeah, if you have a company that you respect, or you see somebody in management in this business or other that you admire. Like I would work with Simon Sinek if we were digging a ditch to put PVC pipe down, just to be around that dude for a couple of days, right? So if you have an opportunity to learn firsthand from somebody who you admire and who is successful, it needn't be in our industry yet. Spend a year as an intern learning that, and learning how everything from conflict resolution to the proper tone of an email, trying to get, cooperation. Once you learn all that stuff, then pick your industry. But those are the building blocks, in my opinion.
Whoa, understand businesses, because we live in a capitalism world where business is everything. What comes in comes out. Profit and loss, QuickBooks, understanding what is a primary KPI of operating any business, either you're an employee or the owner, but knowing how to communicate that in any situation, conflict to good or persuasion. What Tony Robbins talks about, what's the biggest currency in the world that you want to have the most out of it? It's called influence. And influence is communication.
Yeah.
Right? And I love getting around mentorships, and sometimes you don't have access to mentors. Like I would love to be mentored by Elon Musk, right? But since I'm not, I follow him process. I read his books. And then when I read Elon Musk books, I read Steve Jobs books. And you get into their mind, understanding how they operate, what's their principle of thinking, how they simplify things so they can make it as a scalable, right? How Elon talks about stupidity index. He created the index in KPIs called how something is stupid.
Didn't he also say, if you show up at a meeting or a phone call and you have nothing to contribute, just get the hell out and don't work.
Yeah, like
I love that, because how much grandstanding goes on in every industry, right? And I'm tell you what, that's not a bad matter. You know what he does well too, and I would advise, if you can build up your knowledge of the industry and your vocabulary, using metaphor to explain things is the way to gain acceptance and get people to get it. To just say, for example, I once had a job where I was really helping with, I was just doing consulting, right? That's all I was doing. And I was in Mexico City, actually. They had about, ultimately 50 gyms. And I was kind of bopping around. And what I saw, they were trying to implement, but the way I described it was, I'm not the person doing the CPR, right? I'm the person deciding whether to pull the plug on this location, and that was the way I explained it. And that, again, was in Mexico City, probably 20 years ago. Now, why did that matter? Because we had all kinds of language barrier problems, but that made sense. And if you can kind of turn it into a story that, especially if it's self-effacing humor, like makes you like, here's the dopey thing that I did that you should learn from. As long as that's not the only stories you have, you're gonna go a long way to getting people to accept what you have to say.
That's master communication, talking with a language that the person who is listening understands. It's easy to throw the jargons out and look professional, but then you lose people in the communication. Like, what the heck is this guy talking?
And why would you product dump on a staff? Like, just so you know, I've been in the business since none of you were born. Do you think they care? I mean, that's their okay, boomer, which I'm X, I swear. But they're not going to listen. I mean, credentialism is thankfully, in a way, dead to this group. The last thing they want to hear is, oh, I got this degree and that degree. And it's just such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Who cares? And there's speakers that I see to this day at URSA and others, and the first thing they do when they introduce you, they give you the CV. It's like, come on. They don't give it. They don't care. They don't care. Because if you're really successful or think you are, half the people are jealous that you are, and the other half don't believe that you are. Who are you trying to impress with a silly joke and credentialism the first 20 seconds of your speech? It should
sometimes
be
20 minutes talking about your life and history. Like, who cares?
This is how I did it. Right?
Yeah, I was providing feedback to some leaders in HRSA as well, saying, guys, when you bring speakers, people come here, dedicate their time, they want a value. Teach those speakers how to structure those agendas.
Just give them 3 actionable things that are going to make their march better, and they'll be a devotee, they'll be a disciple. Yeah. But preaching to them about why they should be praying to you is probably not the right approach.
NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is what Tony Robbins talks about. I'm impressed with that guy. In one of the I've been to many of his events, and every time I'm like,
been to one.
And one conference I particularly went, it wasn't his conference. It was like 6,000 people. He was a guest there for just 4 hours. Nobody is not his crowd, right?
Okay.
So usually when his crowd is, they come with expectation. When he's a guest speaker, they're like, who's this guy? And I'm wondering, like, this is the first time I'm seeing him coming in front of the crowd that he doesn't know how crowd, will they jump? Will they crazy? Will they respond? And then they did. They totally, he
because it's a transference of feeling. It's not the words, right?
No, and one guy asked a question. I'm so glad he asked. Like, Tony, I gotta ask this burning question. I've been to a conference with 20,000 people. I've been to this one. Every time you get people to follow you and scream out. Tell me why. And Tony was paused for a second, like he didn't expect the question. He thought for a second. And he said something I'll never forget. He says, me too, not so what. He says, let me explain. Me too, not so what. He says, there's 2 responses. The word you say out of your mouth will create either response, me too, I am agreeing with you, or response, not so, or response, so what?
Okay.
If I come here and say, oh, I coach every living president from Maria, from Gorbachev to American president, I was Princess Diana's coach, I was like creating 50 companies, I did this. People will say, with the middle finger up, it says, so what?
Right.
It's not me. But I usually come here, start asking questions. How many of you guys first time here seeing me? Boom. How many you know me before? How many know you guys talking about, look at this big dude and his big teeth, right? How many of you are brought here that you didn't want to come? He started asking questions until he sees everybody saying, me too.
At least at one point or another, they said, me too, right? Yeah.
At one point they got agree. And he talks about problems that people are connecting with. It's a master of conversation, and there's no stage that he didn't dominate it, no matter how cold it. And he goes into people and they don't like him, and then he turned them in 10 minutes in a lovable audience.
I saw him in 2005 in Michigan. I think it was Michigan. Anyway, yeah. I didn't get burned. I made it across. He had a. I don't know if they even still do that anymore. It was quite a 2.5 days.
Yeah, no, it's 3.5 days, 4 days.
And even if you disagree with him, whatever you're disagreeing or agreeing with, it's going to be wholeheartedly. There's not a lot of middle ground, right?
And he making you question everything. Like, woo, I don't want to agree.
And I don't know that he could have a more directly inverse approach to John Maxwell. How the fact you reconcile those 2 guys? Talk about a spectrum, huh? Yeah. Maxwell might be one of the more soft-spoken and he's a sharp guy. I really enjoyed him. But him and Robbins are that's 180 degrees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just shows that both styles can work,
Yeah. And
right?
it's very
If they are, as long as they're legitimate, as long as you have purchase, if they come off as authentic, styles work. People will go, I like Andre's style better than Scott's, but they won't be disrespectful of either of us if they find them to be what? Authentic. But
and
when
then
they
I think
don't,
about what's best from you. I don't agree. I don't expect everybody agreeing with my
oh,
sentence or
no.
yours. Maybe your process as a listener is better, by all means. But you get to tackle your mind and challenge you, thinking, "Hey, am I right or wrong?" You might be want to hire all your brothers and sisters and family. Cool. I'm not saying it's wrong, but for other people, they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to stand, and it was wrong.
Yeah. And who could be so absolutely insecure as to not allow anybody to question the efficacy of what they're trying to implement. Now, not the motivation. That's not okay. I wouldn't allow somebody to be disrespectful to me as a person. But to just say, I think you're wrong, and here's why. Who would be so I don't know, weak in their convictions that they can't allow that, or that they would feel challenged by somebody disagreeing? You're not going to lead a lot of people, and you're never going to have multiple markets under your jurisdiction for long, because they'll spin right off.
Yep, I agree. And then the final question of our audience is thinking about, whoa, how do we get more of Scott?
Yeah.
How do we find more of what he's up to, and how can we get him to help us? And Scott, I want to give you opportunity to, share some of the information, or as much as you're willing to do. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I have a job that I'm paid to do. So I'm not looking for employment. I certainly can't do anything that would take time away from my current project. However, I never refuse a conversation. If somebody has questions about, I'm not going to give out information that to a direct competitive of our brand, of course, but general questions or things that have come up here, or KPIs. I love meeting people within the industry. Like I said, I started as a janitor, so it's not like I haven't had to do every bloody job on the way up. And that's not, that's certainly not crowing, because it took me longer than perhaps some things it should have. But they can reach me through you, through the simplest way is my email address, if they want, at my work, which is scott.corless@workatanytime.com. And I think that would probably, that's probably the best.
Wow, Scott, you're so generous, honestly, for your time today, for your incredible wisdom, for everything you shared, for our conversation that totally went off my agenda with a
Are you
question.
saying we went off the rails? Because I've done that to people before, sir. I apologize.
No, I'm grateful. Because the question I wanted to ask are not even close to value we are squeezing in.
Another hour. If the people don't rise up with pitchforks and torches against you, I'll do an hour with you whenever you want. This has been a lot of fun, my friend. It's
oh man,
the memory lane stuff we'll have to do for maybe the PG-13 rated version, but it's been a ride.
Will that for special session and special access?
Double secret probation session. Yes, sir.
There's a lot more, guys. Listen, 40 years of experience is something you can't explain in an hour. It's something you can't translate. It's my joy, opportunity that I have you here, Scott, in previous calls, and I'm looking forward to our future collaboration. That's definitely something that we need more people like you in this world, and more people to hear your wisdom, your words, and one advice from this call can make an impact on somebody's life, somebody's personal life, somebody's who's starting in this career or thinking to finish it or changing things around.
Well, this is your program, your world, pal. I'm just living in it.
This is awesome. And for you guys who are listening, you know what to do. Click share, send this recording. Either you're listening it on a podcast channel or watching it, share it. This is how we say thank you to Scott. Let's spread the message. And subscribe so you can get tuned in on the next episodes coming up. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you, Scott, for being such an awesome guest.
Thank you.
If you are a gym owner looking to become a top-rated gym in your area, visit topratedgym.com and grab our free 30-day reputation boost. That's topratedgym.com. I'll add it to the show notes for you. Don't forget to share this with your friends. Stay strong, stay motivated, and keep pushing your gym to the top. Until next time, this is Andre signing off.